We now have some breaking news that is just coming out that is going to have major implications on the United States, on the American people, and our Congress. I will address what's going on in just a moment. All I ask is if you appreciate these daily updates, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button, and let's begin. So as you can see, Speaker Kevin McCarthy was just ousted as the Speaker of the House. This is the first time in our nation's history that a Speaker has been removed. We have had multiple votes in the past, however, none have gone to this extent. That is a major issue. But on top of that, some people are asking, what does this mean moving forward? Are we going to see the government shut down on November 18th? The answer is possibly. Well, what about the funding for Ukraine? Because as President Biden stated, that him and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, they had a deal. That the deal was Speaker Kevin McCarthy would put a bill on the House floor to vote for additional funding for Ukraine. Well, what happens now? Well, we will see. But let's get into some of these articles because this right here is unprecedented. This one right here, this is from Fox News. It says House votes to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker in a historic first. It says votes by Democrats and GOP rebels led to Matt Gaetz combine to oust McCarthy. Down here, okay, you can see it says 8 Republicans voted with every present Democrat to vacate the Speaker's chair. The final vote was 216 to 210. Now, I want to be very clear on one thing. What happened and how this transpired was actually pretty simple. One of the concessions that Speaker Kevin McCarthy had to make in order for him to become the Speaker of the House back in January, he accepted a provision that allowed one single representative to call a vote to oust the Speaker, okay, call him to vacate the chair. Now, that Speaker was Matt Gaetz. He's talked about this in the past, but he never did it. He addressed this on Saturday as soon as Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Joe Biden pretty much made this deal. And the House of Representatives passed a bill that was mainly passed by Democrats. That's when Republican Speaker Matt Gaetz stated that if this goes through, he is going to call for his speakership this week. And on Monday, which was yesterday, he said that he was going to move forward this week. Well, as of today, Tuesday, October 3rd, we now have a speaker, but it is not Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And I will address that in just a minute and how all that came about. But let's get to some more of the news. I want to read you some of these statements, okay? Look at this. So it says tensions were high between Gaetz and McCarthy allies ahead of the vote. This person says, I look across this floor and you can divide members in 3 groups. I'm very happy to be in the first group. The overwhelming majority of my party supports the speaker that we elected. This is coming from the House Chair, Tom Cole. There's a second group, which is a small group. Honestly, they're willing to plunge this body into chaos and this country into uncertainty for reasons that only they really understand. That is one of the things I want to address because what just happened is we are now putting the country into times of high uncertainty because we have no idea what's going to happen. Then it goes, this person says, the one thing that the White House, House Democrats, and many of us on the conservative side of the Republican caucus would argue is that the thing we have in common, Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to. All Speaker Matt Gaetz is asking for is the truth, according to him. Well, we'll see if that's really what he wants. Now, down here, this is coming from Representative Jim Jordan. It says, the problem with not from Representative Jim Jordan, the problem with my friend from Ohio, Representative Jim Jordan, argument is many of the bills he referenced as having passed are not law. And now, this is actually going back, again, to the handling of the impeachment. which President Biden obviously doesn't want, Speaker Kevin McCarthy really pushed forward with. Or did he? Well, the answer was no, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to have impeachment hearings. There was one. Okay? And so again, this is what Matt Gaetz is talking about. This was something that Speaker Kevin McCarthy promised and didn't go through. Speaker Kevin McCarthy promised Democrats that there would be a vote for, promised President Biden there would be a vote for additional Ukraine funding. Guess what? It's not going to go through now. And he also promised the American people and Democrats that the Republican Party agrees to a government funding bill at a tune of $1.59 trillion. Well, the last we heard, the bill that Republicans were going to go with, and this was coming out of the House of Representatives, was actually $1.7 billion. So, or $1.47 trillion. So it was about $200 billion less. It's about $120 billion less. So again, major differences there. And that's something that Democrats couldn't agree on. Now, here's something else. What happens now that we do not have a Speaker of the House? Well, as you recall, just a little bit ago, I said we do have a Speaker, but it's not Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Here's what happens. Okay, this is an article out of NBC News. And again, a lot of this stuff is just coming out because we just learned about this just a couple hours ago. But it says, first, a temporary speaker takes over. Well, who is that? It says the office of the speaker has been declared vacant. This does not immediately trigger a new speaker election. However, because the succession list McCarthy, California Republican, submitted to the House clerk in January. Now, this list wasn't public. We did not know who was on this list until today. As of today, right after this vote, okay, we learned that Representative Patrick McHenry, a Republican from North Carolina, he was revealed shortly after McCarthy was removed that his name tops that list. McHenry will now serve as the temporary replacement under House rules. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means that we did not actually elect this person. Okay? The votes didn't come from Congress. The votes didn't come from the House of Representatives. The Representative Patrick McHenry was only chosen to be Speaker simply because his name was at the top of the list that Speaker Kevin McCarthy submitted to the clerk. That's it. So, does this mean he is going to be the one leading the House of Representatives? Well, temporarily, yes. But how soon can we get a new election? Well, let's look at this. It says, how quickly could the House move to elect a permanent speaker? It says right here, House rules do not lay out how long the Speaker pro tempore can remain in power before the chamber votes on a new permanent speaker. It says the House could proceed soon to the election of the new speaker, or they could decide to hold it at a later time. Then it says, in the event of a vacancy in the speakership, there is no time frame that the House must follow to elect a new speaker. However, as a practical matter, the House will want to elect a new speaker quickly in order for the chamber to move forward with its legislative business. Now, here's what you need to know. First off, there's going to be a new speaker. I don't think it's going to be Patrick McHenry, but we never know. It could possibly be. Now, what we need to understand, though, moving forward, is that when the new speaker is picked, they're going to have to elect this person again. It's going to go through the House of Representatives. All representatives are going to vote, and you need to have the simple majority. What happened with Speaker Kevin McCarthy is he said to Democrats that if you vote for me, because all Republicans weren't voting for Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So what he had to do was he had to get enough Democrats to push him through. And what he promised was he was going to make sure that there weren't cuts to Social Security. There wasn't cut to Medicare, right? He wasn't going to really push, a lot of spending cuts. But Republicans wanted that. So he had to make concessions. this is what the next person is going to have to do. We are still waiting for any type of reform for Social Security. Republicans want to ensure there's spending cuts. Democrats don't want spending cuts. So how do we deal with that? Republicans say no funding to Ukraine, and Democrats say we need funding for Ukraine. Democrats are also pushing for more relief for student loan borrowers. There's a big push for more affordable housing. The Social Security Administration, they need additional funding. The IRS wants more funding. The Education Department needs more funding. A lot of issues here. Okay? So moving forward, who are we actually going to see be elected as the Speaker of the House? And how much of a difference are they going to make? Well, let's look at this. It's from Axios, and it says the other names floated, okay? Because, again, let's just be very clear on this. The House Republicans will be tasked with selecting a new Speaker. I want to be very clear that, yes, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he can run again if he chooses. And if he does choose to run again, he could be elected. He could be selected again. But guess what? He's probably not going to do. He's probably not going to agree that if you choose him, just takes one person to oust him as the Speaker, to call for a vote. No, he's not going to do that again. Okay? So that's a big change that's going to happen, because I guarantee you we are not going to see that when the next Speaker is chosen. Also, if he is considering running again, he is going to have to make sure he gets the majority of his caucus, so the majority of Republicans in the House, on his side. Also, he's going to have to give in to some Democratic demands. And whatever those demands may be, we don't know. But like I said, they want additional relief for student loan borrowers, want more funding for Ukraine. They want to ensure that there's not massive spending cuts, and really they say no spending cuts at all, but we know they are going to offer some type of concession there as well. So right now, the question is, who's going to be the Speaker, and what are their concessions in order for them to take that seat? Well, here are some of the names that have been floated. There's Majority Leader Steve Scalise. There's Majority Whip Tom Emmer. There's Republican Tom Cole, Patrick McHenry, Kevin Hern, and Mike Johnson. Those are the ones that are currently being mentioned. Also, says on Fox News after the vote, Gates mentioned Emmer, Johnson, Hern, Scalise, and Representative Jody Arrington as Speaker possibilities. Just so that you know, Representative Matt Gaetz does not get to pick who the Speaker is. He essentially is just one more vote. That's it. So that's what we know at this time. Again, this is breaking news, because this has never happened in the history of the United States. We have never had the Speaker of the House ousted, and this is a first. So we will see what happens moving forward. And I promise I'll keep you up to date on everything that's going on. All you got to do is two things. First, hit the like button on this video. Also, click that subscribe button so you never miss an update. And I will see you guys on the next one.